From the Whitby Town Hall, Rogers Television, the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, and the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade are proud to present Ontario By-Election 2006, an all-candidates debate for the riding of Whitby-Ajax.
Welcome to the by-election debate for the provincial riding of Whitby-Ajax. I'm Tom Kalo. The former member of Provincial Parliament for Whitby-Ajax resigned the seat prior to the federal election last January, and as a result, Whitby-Ajax will be going to the polls Thursday, March 30th to select a replacement. Tonight, the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, Ajax Pickering Board of Trade, and Rogers Television have invited all of the candidates to participate in a debate to help the voters decide on who will become the new provincial member from Whitby-Ajax. Let's begin by familiarizing ourselves with the riding of Whitby-Ajax.
The riding of Whitby-Ajax was created in 1998 from Durham Centre, Durham East, and Durham West. It consists of the town of Whitby and part of Ajax lying to the south of Kingston Road. Big issues include healthcare and the Rouge Valley health system. Population growth, development, and education are usual headlines, as is transit. The seat was left vacant when Conservative MPP Jim Flaherty defeated Liberal Judi Longfield in the January federal election. She is now running for his old seat. Born in Timmins, Ontario, Longfield worked as a community college teacher and served on local council before being elected. She is a co-founder of the Whitby Committee on Racial and Religious Equity and a founding member of a French Immersion Parents Association. Jim Flaherty's wife, Christine Elliott, is trying to keep the job in the family. She is a lawyer and serves as a director of Grandview Children's Centre. She has also worked with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada and is running for the Conservatives. Teacher Julie Gladman is running on the NDP ticket. She chairs the Gay Straight Alliance Human Rights Committee and is involved in community projects such as Run for the Cure, the MS Walk, and the AIDS Walk. Green Party candidate 22-year-old Nick Boileau is a third-year criminology student at University of Ontario Institute of Technology. And voters in Whitby-Ajax will head to the polls on March 30th.
Okay, and now let's review the rules.
Each candidate will begin with a 3-minute opening statement. We will then go to a question from our panel. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond. 30-second rebuttals will be allowed, and further rebuttals at the discretion of the moderator. The order of candidates will be rotated to allow each candidate the opportunity to answer first. Next, we'll accept a question from our audience, then back to our panel, and so on. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes for a closing statement.
All right, now let me introduce the panel to you. The questions are going to be posed by representatives from the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, from the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade, and from the News Department of Rogers Television. Our panel is composed of the following members. First of all, Richard Gowder is the president of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce. Tracy Patterson is the president of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade, and Deborah Hutchison of Rogers Television First Local will represent Rogers. We will also be going to Chris Terrio, who's the host of Talk With Your Mouth Full. He's in the audience collecting questions from audience members, and he'll be introducing them. And now to the people that we all want to meet, let's introduce the candidates. The candidates for Whitby-Ajax are as follows, in no particular order. Nick Boileau of the Green Party of Ontario. The Green Party is led by Frank DeJong. Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party of Ontario. The Freedom Party of Ontario is led by Mr. McKeever. Julie Gladman. Julie is a member of the Ontario NDP, and they are led by Mr. Howard Hampton. Christine Elliott. Christine Elliott is a member of the Ontario PC Party, led by John Tory. And Judi Longfield. Judi is a member of the Liberal Party of Ontario, led by Dalton McGuinty. All right, now let's begin. Before the debate began, we have drawn for the order of opening speeches, and we're going to begin with the 3-minute opening comments. First to speak will be Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
Thank you and good evening. Elections are about choices. choices between competing ideas, policy choices, and visions about the kind of local community we want, choices about the kind of province we want, and choices about the person you want representing you when key decisions affecting our lives are being made. On March the 30th, this by-election is no different. I have lived in Whitby for almost 35 years, and together with my husband Alan, have raised our son Michael in this community. I've had the privilege of serving this community in an elected capacity for the past 15 years. In that time, I have learned a great deal about what's important to our residents. And I've learned how to use my time as your representative to deliver real, positive results for you and your neighbors. Results like the $200 million investment in GM's Beacon project, like the $58 million investment at UOIT. Results like the new Whitby Library, the new Ajax Library, the Senior Centre, the Roslyn Road Bridge, and the Dundas Fire Hall, and a new deal for our municipality that gives our communities a real positive share of gas tax revenues. Communities as vibrant as Whitby and Ajax do not come about by accident. They are the result of residents working together to build something special, and elected representatives using their experience on your behalf to get things done. This is a crucial time for our community. We are growing rapidly, and with that growth, there are challenges. This is not the time for on-the-job training. The stakes are just too high. If elected, I will hit the ground running. I have experience. I will be your representative on the governing side of the legislature, not a voice from the backbenches on the opposition side. My constituency office will be open for business with 1 week of the election date, and my staff will be there to provide you the services you need and deserve. I will pursue a clear plan that is designed to help Whitby-Ajax deal with the current issues and also to prepare for so that we can enjoy a healthy and prosperous future. My priorities include improving our health care, keeping our communities safe, enhancing local highways and public transit, strengthening education, and investing in our children. I will be a strong advocate for an acute care hospital in Whitby. The previous Conservative government saw fit to close the Whitby General Hospital and to make empty promises about the Ajax Hospital. That is not acceptable. We must do better. I will work to ensure that the Attorney General's Guns and Gangs Task Force expands to include Durham Region, because we must work to contain or preempt the problem before it becomes epidemic. These are some of my ideas for this community. I have the experience, and in government, experience delivers results. I'm asking for your support on March the 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Elliott of the PC Party of Ontario.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade, and Rogers Television for sponsoring tonight's event. I'd also like to thank all of you in attendance tonight, and for those viewers who will be watching at home. This is an important opportunity for you to decide two things tonight. First, to decide which one of us should be your elected representative at Queen's Park, and secondly, to judge the McGuinty Liberal record. First, let me share with you why I'm applying for this job as your representative. I grew up in this community, lived and worked here for most of my life. I'm a lawyer who's worked hard on behalf of my clients, working to serve their needs for over 20 years. I'm a mother of 3 sons, so I know what our families need. And as a community activist and volunteer, I've participated in a number of community activities and organizations working hard to improve the lives of people, children and adults with special needs. We need a new, energetic, fresh approach to the needs of this community after being ignored by the McGuinty Liberals since 2003. I can't stand by and watch what the McGuinty Liberals are doing to Whitby, Ajax, and to this province. As a professional, as a mother, as a community activist, I know our communities have been let down by this government. Mr. McGuinty promised that he would not raise your taxes. After he got your vote, he brought in a health care tax. Yet wait lists for medical procedures are increasing at an alarming rate in Whitby and Ajax. Mr. McGuinty promised peace in our schools, yet our students, including 29,000 of our own Durham College students, are facing the loss of a school year because of a strike. Mr. McGuinty promised to expand health care services, yet we're paying more and more for eye examinations, physiotherapy, and chiropractic services. Mr. McGuinty promised to cap hydro rates at 4.3 cents per kilowatt hour, yet charged us more. I could go on, but I think you all know this story well. Since Mr. McGuinty was elected, he's broken an election promise every 12 days. Promises made, promises broken. Whitby and Ajax deserve better. Our families deserve better. We need a leader like John Tory who believes that we should do what we say what we're going to do. I'm running to fight for the things that our community needs. A hospital in the northern part of our riding, improved health care and fair funding for Lakeridge Health and Whitby and the Ajax Hospital, shorter wait lists for health care services, more schools for our communities, an extended 407 and expanded 401. I'm going to fight for these things for the people of our riding of Whitby-Ajax, and that's what I do if you send me to Queen's Park on your behalf. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. The next speaker is Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
Good evening. I'm Paul McKeever. I'm the leader of the Freedom Party. I'm also a lawyer in Durham region, serving both employees and employers. I've been doing so for about 10 years. I have 2 children in the region, and I'm married and all of that good stuff. But I don't share the view of the Liberal candidate and the PC candidate concerning what needs to be done in this province, let alone in this riding. You're going to hear a lot tonight about scrapping over their fair share of the pie for this riding. I want you to remember, through everything you hear tonight, this image. Imagine a steak that you've paid for in a back alley, and there's 103 hungry dogs all ripping and tearing and pulling on that. Well, the 2 people that just spoke are promising that they're going to pull harder than the other 102. I'm telling you, it's futile. The steak is getting more expensive, but the bites are getting smaller. Look, I'm campaigning on a simple slogan, and I hope you take this to heart. Lower taxes, a better life. Let me break that down. Lower taxes. There's no reason, in my view, it's wrong in my view, that you should be paying property taxes on a house that you've already paid for with after-tax dollars. There's a better way to finance municipal government than by taxing you for what you own. We can tax what you use. And if you don't use, if you take your money and you put it in your savings account, good for you, you shouldn't be taxed on those savings. It turns out there's about $8.6 billion collected in property tax in this province every year. And do you know that on average, municipalities would have to impose a 5% sales tax collected along with the provincial sales tax, just as part of it. You know, a Brunel tax, if you want to call it that. You'd see it right there on your receipt when you buy a chocolate bar, and you'd know how much that mayor was charging you or that council was charging you for that tax. That's what I want to see, a tax that will make you angry enough at municipal voting time that you'll actually come out and vote. Not some mill rate that's hidden, more expensive for renters actually than for single-family dwellings. On health care, you will hear nothing substantive from anybody on this panel. I apologize in advance. But last year, the Supreme Court of Canada said that our system of health care is failing Canadians. We're rationing health care. People are begging for help, begging for service in growing lines. I want people who can choose, not beg health care. I want choice between having to buy OHIP or buying private health insurance. It's been long overdue. It's already legalized now in Quebec, thanks to the court. We ought to be doing the same here.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next, we will hear from Nick Boileau of the Green Party.
Good evening. This has been an extremely exciting opportunity for me. I've always wanted to get involved in the community, and while I've had various opportunities available to me, I can't think of this as being, I can't help but think of this as being the absolute best. But there is one real reason that I'm here today, and that is because the Green Party is misunderstood. And I need to clarify that for everyone. This party is no longer a single environmental platform. There are real, tangible needs in this area. And while it stands that some of those issues might appear separate from the environment, they are not. However, neither is the environment our primary focus. The Green Party's focus is on sustainability. This is a common sense approach to politics. As a human rights specialist, I can't help but feel that all of the issues are in some way linked together, be it how healthcare is affected by the environment or the environment affected by education. It is both my own goal and that of the Green Party to press this issue because it is not with the current government that we can achieve this balance. The reality is, when you can't train old dogs new tricks, it's time to replace them with younger and unmolded representatives.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Julie Gladman of the NDP.
I want to thank the hosts of tonight's debate. All of you are concerned with this by-election because it cuts to the heart of what politics is all about. It's about having a government that responds to our communities. The McGuinty Liberals were elected making all sorts of promises around health care, education, and transit, promises broken. They can't be trusted to deliver what Whitby-Ajax needs. We've seen that the McGuinty Liberals continue to play games with the Ajax Pickering Hospital. Last fall, the government attempted to move the birthing services to Scarborough. Only when our community spoke out did the government reverse its decision. For now, and with no long-term commitment, we need to properly invest in our local hospitals and clinics and to make sure our public health dollars don't go into a private company's profits. Our community wants someone to deliver that message. We've seen that the McGuinty Liberals are unwilling to address the growing problem of gridlock. Every year, commute times get longer and rush hour starts earlier. The Liberals promised to introduce a Greater Toronto Transportation Authority, and we're still waiting. We need a proper investment in GO and regional transit. Commuter congestion is bad for business, bad for the community, and bad for the environment. Our community wants somebody to deliver that message. We've seen that the McGuinty Liberals are incapable of addressing needs in the classroom. This is something I know all too well. I know that your children deserve better than trying to learn in cramped, poorly heated portables with skunks and raccoons taking up residence underneath. And they deserve better than a tuition increase. Our community wants someone to deliver that message. The McGuinty Liberals break so many promises they don't know what they believe. And the McGuinty Liberal agenda is a continuation of the previous Conservative government's legacy of municipal downloading, privatization, cuts to services we all depend on. Only Howard Hampton and the NDP consistently stand up for the people in our community. For the MS-afflicted woman I met who must fight for basic dignity. For the parents I know who are struggling to pay for their children's tuition. For the commuters I've spoken to who are frustrated by overcrowded GO trains and escalating fares. The choice in this by-election is clear. Vote for the Conservatives who created the problems in our community. Vote for the Liberals who ignore our community. Or vote for the New Democrats who will stand up for our community. We need to send a message to this government, and I'm ready to be your messenger. Thank you.
Okay, and now I think everybody can breathe out a little bit. We've got the opening round out of the way. Let's go to our very first question. Our first question comes from Richard Goddard of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. This question is to all of the candidates. There's a desperate need to have an additional east-west corridor to allow for the improved movement of goods, services, and people through Durham Region. The 407 extension project needs to be completed to Highway 35-115 as soon as possible. The 407 project has been discussed, debated, and studied. The timetable for this project to move ahead needs to be fast-tracked so it can proceed. Transportation corridors are and will continue to be the economic arteries of our economy. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce shares our concern and support the eastern extension of Highway 407. The process seems to be stalled, and there is no progress in moving this item forward. The 407 to Durham means jobs, growth, and access. All are vital importance to the business community. The 401 interchange in Whitby also is seriously overdue and is another major item that needs to be addressed. As a community, we continue to grow, yet the transportation infrastructure has not kept pace with this growth. What will you do to advance the transportation needs of this community at Queen's Park?
All right, and we're going to begin this round with a 1-minute response from Nick Boileau, NDP.
Thank you for the question. This is absolutely an issue, and again, speaking to the whole notion of sustainability, if you just take a look at the 401 and the fact that it is extremely reduced, there aren't enough lanes, that just adds to the congestion. And of course, the longer your cars are sitting there, the more pollution is going to be created. As far as extending the 407, that is something certainly that has its benefits, but I think that there are other areas of transportation need to be addressed, such as potential for a GO station moving up to the Myrtle railways that aren't even being used. I think that that's a more important issue than pressing forward with the 407.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Paul McKeever.
Great question. Raises a whole host of issues in this riding in particular, not the least of which is not only the 407 going east-west, but how do we get from the 401 up to the 407? There have been a number of proposals hotly contested. The ministry is hush-hush on which route they prefer, although it seems pretty obvious that they want to carve a tract of land through what right now is some pretty beautiful land, which could be used for development, which could be used and is currently being used in a natural state. I think we have to look at existing roadways rather than carving new tracks through. As far as the 407 goes, we're looking at what is in fact nothing more than a bureaucratic nightmare. Terms of reference haven't even been established for the environmental assessment. Fast tracking, yes, but maybe changing the rules in the first place. They're obscenely stacked against development of this sort of road.
Thank you. Julie Gladman.
I would suggest that one of the main reasons why the 407 is not yet a viable corridor east-west is because of the extraordinarily expensive toll that one has to pay to use it. This is a highway that was paid for with tax dollars and then sold off to private interests. It's one of the most expensive toll roads in the world, and shippers and transporters are already running at a bare bones budget capacity. Now, that being said, we can't just keep building highways north of the city and north of the city. We need to invest in mass transit so that way we can ease the gridlock on the 401 like you were talking about.
Thank you. Christine Elliott.
Thanks for your question, Richard. I would absolutely agree that we need the 407 extension and an expansion of the 401, but we seem to have been ignored here in Durham Region by the McGuinty Liberals as our population expands tremendously, yet we haven't had the infrastructure expansion to accompany that. We need that in order for our businesses to develop and grow, and we also need it just for quality of life for our residents, many of whom it takes 2 hours to get back from Toronto. Our leader, John Tory, is on record as recommending that we proceed to fast-track this, and that we would certainly do that, proceeding with the necessary environmental assessments, but moving where there's a will, there's a way, and we would do it.
Thank you. All right, Judi Longfield from the Liberal Party.
I think if you've lived in this community as long as I have, you know that that corridor is absolutely needed and it should have been completed by now. And so I'm on record as trying to get that back on track as quickly as possible. But unlike John Tory, who says build it and then we'll figure out how to pay for it, I mean, I think we need to have a plan for doing that, and I'd like to see that plan on the books as quickly as possible. I'm also on record as saying that we need the interchange at Lake Ridge. We need it now. And I also believe that we need additional public transit, GO transit stops in conjunction with an interchange at Lake Ridge.
All right, thank you. Let's take a question from the audience. We'll go to Chris Terrio. Chris, who have you got with you?
Thanks, Tom. Step up. Yes, you're first. May I just see it? Yeah. We have Booley.
Yes.
Is that the correct spelling? And who is your question for?
To all the candidates, I have been here in Toronto for 6 years, but I cannot go back to China to see my families, simply because I'm a Falun Gong practitioner. As far as I know, right now there are over 20 Ontario practitioners' family members are still being imprisoned in jail in China. And last Wednesday, there's even worse shocking news was disclosed that in China, the Sujiatun, Shenyang city, which is Toronto's sister city, since 2001, 6,000 Falun Gong practitioners were held there, and they were killed for organs. No one has ever come out alive. A lot of doctors were also there, because organ sales is a highly profitable business in China. So my question is, if you are elected as an MPP, would you think it will be your responsibility to urge both the federal and the provincial government to help stop the mass killing immediately and also stop the persecution? And I also need everybody's help, that we have petitions on the table back. If you would like,
Okay,
please help us. Thank you very much.
Good. So the question for our candidates is, would you, as an MPP, be in a position to urge the provincial and federal governments to stop persecution in China? Is that a fair? All right, so we've condensed it down to that, and we're going to begin this round with an answer from Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
Thank you. Interesting question. A little bit difficult to answer in the provincial context, but let me give it a shot anyway. Freedom Party in particular is one that believes that every individual, in the pursuit of their own happiness, has an absolute right to their own life, their own liberty, their own property. Included in that is a right to practice the religious beliefs, to have the conscientious beliefs of your choice. We don't all believe in the same things. There's not a lot we can do. There is danger in suggesting that we, for example, set up trade barriers to address this issue. However, certainly statements against what's going on in China, it's proper, I think, for our representatives, including myself, to say that those things are inappropriate, and that's really as much as this government can do.
All right, thank you. Julie Gladman, NDP.
I'm at a bit of a loss as to how to answer your question. The NDP has always championed human rights within our own country and within our own province and internationally as well. However, at the provincial level, other than, as you're saying, advocacy and pressure and lobbying, practically speaking, there isn't a great deal that we could do. And I feel awkward even presuming to answer your question, because I feel like I'm capitalizing politically on the pain that you and your family and your loved ones are suffering from. And I don't really want to offer too much more of an answer than that.
All right, we'll move to Christine Elliott.
Thank you for your question. I'm not entirely familiar with all of the issues that you're raising, and I suspect that many of them are more related to the federal government, but certainly I would be interested in learning more about it, and if there is something that we could do to raise the issue of human rights with our federal representatives, and if there's something that they would be able to do, then I would be most interested in pursuing that.
Thank you. Judi Longfield, Liberal Party.
Thank you. Over the last number of years, I have met on numerous occasions with Falun Gong practitioners and have signed their petition, and would continue to work to urge that you have the rights to practice your religion, to visit, to go home again if you should wish. I think that's your right, and I would work to ensure that my voice is added with yours on this issue.
Thank you. Nick Boileau.
I can't help but agree with Julie Gladman. The reality is that the best that one can do in this position is really lobby the federal government for that type of support. it's a shame that these type of things are taking place. My field of study involves all of this, but provincially there just isn't huge amounts that we can do to satisfy that.
All right, thank you. Let's start a new round of questioning. This time we'll go back to our panel. Tracy Patterson of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade.
Okay. A very short question to all candidates. What role do the candidates believe that the business community has to play in our local health planning now that the LHINs are in place?
All right, and this time we will begin the round with Julie Gladman.
I'm glad you brought up the LHINs issue. I wish I could speak for 10 minutes instead of just 1 minute. The LHINs is another one of those Orwellian kind of McGuintian misnomers for this model of healthcare. It's called the Local Health Integration Networks. If you look at the model, these networks are neither local nor are they integrated, and so therefore they are not healthy for communities. They're not local because the entire province is divided up into 14 massive zones. They're not integrated because basic services such as family doctors are not included in them. And I don't see how we can even support the LHINs model as a viable option for Ontarians.
Thank you. Christine Elliott.
Thank you for your question. I think it's really important for business to be involved in this with the LHIN situation arising because, as Julie's indicated, they are huge territories. There are 14 LHINs. We need to have strong advocacy to make sure that our local needs are going to be met so that we don't get lost in the shuffle, so to speak, and also to advocate for some of those services that aren't even included in the LHINs, like children's services, because they're funded through a different ministry. Thank you.
Thank you. Judi Longfield, Liberals.
This is one of those questions where I agree with Mrs. Elliott, or Mrs. Flaherty, Christine. I agree with Christine. I agree with Christine on this particular one. I think business has a role to play in helping to develop policies that affect each and every one of us.
Okay, Nick Boileau.
LHINs is really something that is not beneficial, and so to say that we need to get business involved, I think that's dangerous. It's dangerous ground, because when you start trying to bring the private sector into something that's publicly run, I don't see any positives coming out of it personally, and from the Green Party's standpoint, LHIN is just not something that we feel is beneficial and is something that we need to lobby against.
Thank you. Paul McKeever, Freedom Party.
Whether or not we have a LHIN system is irrelevant. I think the role of business in this community and in every community across the province is to be there to offer alternatives to OHIP. I want a healthcare system in which patients can be choosers, not beggars. I don't want to beg for health care anymore. I'm sick of that. They never deliver. I want to be able to say, if you're not going to deliver, I'm taking my money, I'm going to private company number A, and if they stop serving me well, I'm going to go to private company number B or pay OHIP. Whichever one I'm satisfied with is the one I'm going to bring my money to, and I want you there making a huge profit if you can, but you know what? I'm not going to let you, because if your profit's too high, I'm going to take my money and go to the guy who's doing it for less. Thank you.
Thank you. And Julie Gladman of the NDP has asked for some rebuttal time. She'll have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just wanted to address what Ms. Longfield said. I think that she's revealing the true stripes of the Liberal Party there. Canadians have said time and again that they would like a fully publicly funded healthcare system. Business is good, but business has no place in our hospitals and our healthcare system. And I think Canadians have been emphatic on that point, and the Liberals have been privatizing things like 23 hospitals, and they're taking the wrong road, and Ontarians don't like it.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now, and we're going to go to the audience again. Chris Terrio, who do you have with you now?
Thanks, Tom. We actually have Tom with us here, and he has a question for our PC candidate, Christine Elliott, on the topic of education. Go ahead.
Hello, Mrs. Elliott. After years of conservative spending cuts in education, and after the Harris Tories effectively created a crisis in education. As former Education Minister John Snowbaldon said, you opted to abandon public education and put your own children in private schools. I think it's Trinity College. I just wanted to know, as a teacher and a strong supporter of public education, I happen to believe it's worth fighting for. What, in your view, have we done wrong in public education, and why did you abandon us?
All right, 1 minute to Ms. Elliott.
Well, I certainly have not abandoned the public education system. My children were in that system for a number of years, and as a matter of fact, it was, and I think that's essential, that should be the backbone of our education system and should continue to be so. I strongly support a strong public education system. However, from time to time, there are needs of children that arise that require different strategies. In my own situation, I have a child with some special needs that simply could not be addressed by the public school system through no fault of the system. There's simply, we're not able to, and I think that parents should have that choice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move through the rest of the candidates now, and you can comment on the education issue, public system issue, and we'll start with Judi Longfield.
Well, for someone who's a strong supporter of the public school system, the Tory government took $2 billion out of the public school system. There were 15,000 fewer teachers at the end of the Conservative era, and they passed back to work legislation 7 times. That hardly seems as someone who's a strong supporter of the public school system.
Thank you. All right, Nick Boileau of the Green Party.
I believe absolutely that choice should be available in the school that you wish to place your children in. However, what I don't believe in is the $300 million tax credit that's given to private schools, when the reality is that private schools are so expensive to begin with that there is a very few number of people who can actually get there. So for those individuals who can't make it to private school, we need to take that $300 million and we need to put it back into private education, or public education, sorry, so that those students who need the education, they need the money and they need the diversity, can get it.
Thank you. Paul McKeever, Freedom Party.
Look, I'm not an advocate of public, private, religious, non-religious school. I'm an advocate of parents choosing how their children should be educated. Faith-based, not faith-based, public system, private system. The only thing that I would really like to see changed is that a parent pay only for the school that their child is actually attending. Those who choose, for whatever reason, not to attend a public school should not be paying for a public education that their child doesn't use. That is nothing other than a way of making it more difficult for their children to get the education they do want. I want parents paying only the school their child attends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Gladman of the NDP.
Ms. Elliott says that she supports a strong education system, but I would also like to ask her if a mother or a father had a special needs child who was living in 90 Waller or who was living in other subsidized housing, didn't have access to services and didn't have access to the kind of money that it takes to go to private school, what do those special needs children do in the public system? In fact, Ms. Elliott's party, when they were the governing party, removed millions of dollars from public education. And incidentally, Ms. Longfield's party hasn't put that money back. And this is a problem, I think, with both of our colleagues from these two mainstream parties.
All right. I feel some rebuttals coming on. We'll turn first to Christine Elliott.
Thank you. I'd just like to make 2 points. First, with respect to the issue of special education, I would strongly support the need for more funding for special education in our schools. I think it's essential. And I think that we also should make sure that there's a funding formula that's protected and secured so that those funds are not used for any other purposes. Special needs kids need that help. Secondly, with respect to the reforms done by the previous government, they've actually strengthened the system by improving standardized report cards and introducing a rigorous new curriculum that our students need to proceed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Longfield.
Well, with Ms. Gladman, it's do as I say, or do as I say, not as I actually did, because when your government was in power, you actually increased class sizes. You said you'd increase provincial funding to education. You actually cut it. And in terms of funding for special education, Dalton McGuinty's government has added an additional $100 million for special education. I know this, but my mother is a supervisor of special education in Northern Ontario, and for the first time, she's seeing money going back in to help those children with special needs.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to another round. This time we turn to Deborah Hutchison of First Local News in Rogers.
Thanks, Tom. This question is directed to all our panelists, and I'm going to stick with education for a moment. The ongoing college teacher strike has left thousands of students in this community in limbo, paying good money for an education they're not getting, but whether at the college level or the primary grades, a strike by instructors, teachers, inconveniences entire families. My question is this: should teaching be declared an essential service to avoid further disruptions in the classroom?
All right, and we'll begin this round with Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
That's a difficult question. I believe in collective bargaining. I believe in the right for employers and employees to have those discussions about what's best. But I also think that under a McGuinty government, we did bring peace back to the education system. We're currently in a situation now where there is a collective bargaining going on. I'm delighted that they're back at the table, and I think they need to be given the opportunity to resolve this, because we know that negotiated settlements are the best settlements, and they bring the longest peace for all parties involved.
Thank you. Nick Boileau.
The difference between the college strike versus a strike at any public school is that the students who are involved in this strike, who are being affected by this strike, are not only losing their year, but they are also losing money for which they are struggling as it is to provide. So you're talking about a lost year with lost money. They have to earn more money so that they can go back and take that over again. It is a different situation with the elementary system, because you're looking at a private or a publicly funded system. You know, there's no money coming out of their pockets. So as far as making it an essential service, I think at the post-secondary level, absolutely.
Thank you. Paul McKeever, the Freedom Party.
Yeah, the answer is no. I don't think it should be declared an essential service. I do think that they should schedule their collective bargaining sessions a little better. Who on earth chose March as a time at which to negotiate? Look, there are at least 2 months a year when students aren't in school. In fact, probably 4. If we need to mandate anything, let's mandate when those contracts have to be signed. Let's put some deadlines on, and let's say that if it's not settled by a certain date during the summer, we go to binding arbitration. This is unnecessary inconveniencing of everybody, and neither side's to blame except the government in terms of legislating better timing of these things.
Thank you. Julie Gladman, NDP.
The NDP has always felt that the right to strike is a fundamental right of workers as a demonstration of unjust working conditions. Essential service was originally designated to indicate services on which people's lives depend. So I would not support declaring teaching an essential service. As for the current college strike right now, the problems are real. And the problems that college instructors are experiencing are also the students' problems. So students do have a vested interest in supporting these college professors. It'll improve the learning conditions for the students when they go back to school at the end of the strike.
All right, thank you. Last word on this question goes to Ms. Elliott of the PC Party.
I would not declare this as an essential service, but I think that what we need to see is for the minister to show some leadership, to get involved in the discussion, to bring about a meaningful resolution for both of the parties in this dispute, so that the students are the ones that stand to lose the most, don't lose their year, and any suggestion that their school year should be extended really ignores the reality of life for students who need those summer jobs in order to be able to get on with their studying. So I think we need action from the minister now.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the audience again. Chris Terrio, who's with you now?
Well, Tom, I'm joined now by Tarek, who is a member of the DTA 905 Healthcare Alliance. He has a two-part question on healthcare.
This is a question for all candidates. Over the last 4 years, the per capita funding for healthcare, hospital care in Durham for Whitby-Ajax residents has fallen from $229 below the provincial average to now to over $255 per resident below the provincial average. This means that annually there's over $100 million funding gap for hospital services in Durham, which obviously includes Whitby-Ajax. So my question is to all candidates. Will you tonight commit to fighting for a fair share of provincial hospital and healthcare funding for Whitby and Ajax residents? And that is, will you commit to making it your priority to secure immediate growth funding for hospitals like the Ajax Pickering site of the Rouge Valley Health System? And will you commit to making it your priority to work towards population-based funding for hospitals and other healthcare services in Ontario and for Whitby-Ajax?
All right, thank you for that question. We'll begin this round with a 1-minute answer from Nick Boileau of the Green Party of Ontario.
I can certainly attest to the problems that are going on in the healthcare system, having a sister who is sick, the wait times, having to be shipped to Bowmanville because there weren't enough beds in Oshawa. The problem is we can't throw all of our money into one basket. There are issues that are currently being dealt with at the hospital, be it in the emergency room, that simply do not need to be covered there. So I think the important thing is to take that money and ensure that funding is being spread out across many other alternative forms so that we can get away from that Band-Aid fix that in most cases results from going to an emergency room.
Thank you. Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
Yes, the two-part question. The first was, will you fight for a fair share for Whitby-Ajax? Given the existing system and given that the changes I want to encourage in the legislature are going to take some time to happen, yes, of course. It's not right that this riding receive any less per capita funding than any other riding. That said, I don't think that amount of funding is enough. What we're talking about when we're talking about funding is rationing. And there's too little there. It's not enough to simply scrap for your little ration and make sure it's an equal size ration. I want to make sure that the piece is big enough that you can actually get served. Going forward, will I fight for per capita funding for years in advance? No. I think the existing system needs to be replaced with one that's competitive, with private and public insurers competing with one another so that we get the service we want that we've paid for without political interference.
Thank you. All right, Julie Gladman of the NDP Party.
I'd like to offer the member of the audience a resounding yes in answer to his question. This is the issue at the doorstep, is healthcare. And I hear it again and again and again. People want absolutely local, properly delivered health care, and that's what I intend to fight for. Do we want a North Whitby hospital? Yes, but we want to keep the South Whitby hospital too. We don't want to neglect the entire new population at South Whitby and South Ajax. Do we want to keep Ajax Pickering Hospital open? Yes, absolutely. And we want to expand services, not just keep the services that are there, but grow them. So, yes, I can't say it enough.
Okay, thank you. Christine Elliott of the PC Party of Ontario.
Well, thanks for your question. I would absolutely agree that we do need a growth-based funding for this region for better healthcare services. The problem arose as a result of a couple of things. One is the cut in transfer payments by the previous Liberal government federally, of which Ms. Longfield was a member, that cut transfer payments by $23 billion and left us in a bit of a mess, to say the least. Secondly, we've been ignored by the McGuinty Liberals since 2003. It's like Durham Region is in some big black hole out here that they've totally forgotten us. So yes, we absolutely need to fight for that and more.
Thank you. Thank you. Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
This area deserves no less than any other area of this province, and it's a yes and a yes. And I would remind Ms. Elliott, and I think you might remember these were Save Our General Hospital buttons. And thousands of Whitby residents signed a petition to keep the Whitby General Hospital open as an acute care service. And under a Conservative government, that hospital was closed. It is no longer an acute care hospital. And this riding, this community deserves to have their acute care hospital back.
Thank you. 30 seconds of rebuttal time for Ms. Elliott.
Well, I'd really like to dispel this myth that the Whitby Hospital was closed. In fact, it was the Healthcare Restructuring Commission that did recommend it, but the previous member lobbied hard for it to remain open, and it has remained open throughout. Though it's not an acute care facility, it performs in a very vital and important function as part of Lakeridge Health Regional Dialysis, Gerontology Program, Complex Continuing Care. It was never closed.
All right, 30 seconds of rebuttal time for Ms. Longfield.
Ms. Elliott, I'll send you the tape of that member of Parliament, of that provincial member in the 1995 campaign who sat where you're sitting now and said he would fight and he would not let an unelected body close the acute care, 24-hour emergency care at Whitby General Hospital. He let it happen.
All right, thank you. That's one complete cycle of questioning, and we're going to carry on now and start again with our first questioner. It was Richard Goddard of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce. Your next question, Richard.
Thank you. The availability of a skilled workforce is a significant fact for the business community and will have a significant impact on productivity. In addition to funding for post-secondary education, to enhance a skilled trades program, we need government to further encourage and support cooperative programs that help internationally trained professional and tradespeople enter the business sector. What would you do to address the skilled trades shortage?
All right, and that's addressed to everyone? Everyone. All right, we're going to begin in this round of questioning with Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
Sure. One of the things we're proposing, particularly, let's deal with doctors, for example. We have doctors driving taxi cabs in Toronto. Absolutely ridiculous. The main problem, of course, is there aren't enough residency positions, and that's not a small problem. But these are people who, if I had a bicycle injury, if I had an infection, etc., could easily handle the situation. We don't need to give everybody the same level of certification. Let's introduce other levels of certification while we're waiting for internationally trained doctors to get the residency experience they need, and let's open up more residency positions so that we can have more doctors. These were intentionally reduced in 1992 by the premiers who were trying to, again, ration healthcare by limiting the number of doctors so they'd have fewer doctors to pay. It's outrageous.
Thank you. Julie Gladman of the NDP.
I think that in order to address the skilled workforce shortage, first of all, we need to acknowledge that the so-called new curriculum that the previous government put into place has driven students out of high school in droves and into unskilled jobs. There's very little incentive in our present education system to pursue a trade or an apprenticeship, and we really need to work on that because this is where the shortage lies, and this is at the grassroots of how we're going to develop in the future. I think the new curriculum needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Christine Elliott, PC Party of Ontario.
We have an excellent example with our own Durham College with the Skilled Trade Centre that we have there. I think we need to expand and enhance those facilities and also to encourage students to pursue more skilled trades by helping them with their apprenticeships, by assisting with the payment of some of their tools and making it a more viable option for them to pursue. So I think that we could very easily do that and develop our skilled trades more effectively.
Thank you. Judi Longfield, Liberal Party.
Thank you. Having spent a number of years teaching at a community college, I know how important the community colleges are in terms of skills-based training. And the McGuinty government has actually negotiated a $580 million a year labour market agreement with the federal government to improve training and employment opportunities. And we're also working very hard together with other levels of government to reduce the barriers for internationally trained not only tradespeople, but professionals as well.
Thank you. And we'll close out the round with Nick Boileau of the Green Party of Ontario.
I think the primary issue through all of this is that the concept of the apprenticeship program, which truly doesn't exist, is in crisis. First, in how it was handled by the Conservative government, the way it's been followed up by the Liberal government. Right now, while an individual initially would take on an apprenticeship role, had to be signed by that employer within a 2-week span or face fine. There was an apprenticeship board which went in to ensure that that person was getting the education that they required for the position. Now, there is no time frame for them to be signed to this program. So in effect, they could work there for a year and a half, 2 years without ever learning anything, getting paid poor wages before having to move on to something else.
Thank you. Okay, the next question will come from the audience. Chris Terrio, who have you got?
Thanks, Tom. I'm joined now by Don from Ajax. We touched on this issue briefly. It's back on the funding issue for education, and this time he specifically would like to know about faith-based schools, correct?
That's correct. This is a question addressed to Judi Longfield. I would like to know your position on the funding for independent and faith-based schools. Will your government give funding to all faith schools? Will it be Catholic and public only, or will you give parents the choice to send their children to whichever school they see fit and have the government pay for it?
I'm on record as supporting very strongly the public school system. And while I believe it's your right to choose a school system other than the public system, I think the priority of a government is to fund the public system.
All right, thank you. Nick Boileau of the Green Party.
I think that, and the Green Party platform really believes that all schools should operate in some way, shape, under a public form. Now, what that would mean is not that your school wouldn't be independent in the way that it teaches, be it culturally or religiously. But the problem is when you start having these independent schools, they simply don't get the funds that are required. And they struggle with that. If everyone is under one plan, then you end up with shared resources so that you would be able to get the funding that is required for your school.
Okay, thank you. Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
It was actually a question that would Judi, but I would. I want to see that every parent chooses exactly the school they want for their children, the one that they think is right for their child. It's not the government's child, it's your child. It's not for Mr. McGinty to decide what values are going to be drilled into your child's head. It's up to you to choose that these are the values that I want to instill in my child. And I want to make sure, I will advocate on the legislative floor constantly, trust me, look at our platform, it's already been released for 2007, that you will not have to pay into a system that you don't want to send your child to. You'll only spend your money, all of your education dollar, 100% of it will go to only the school that your child actually attends, the one you choose for your child, the one that teaches the values you want them to know. Okay?
Thank you. Julie Gladman of the NDP.
We found that when we subsidize parochial or private schools, we damage the public system. And when you're speaking about parental choice, in this province, the overwhelming parental choice is public education, and they want the best there is. And incidentally, when the Conservatives tried to institute the private school tax credit and the Liberals ousted them in 2003, part of their victory was based on the promise to scrap the Tory private school tax credit and plow the funds back into the system. They haven't done that yet.
All right. Christine Elliott, PC Party.
Well, as you may know, our leader, John Tory, is committed to addressing the issue of unfairness with respect to the funding of faith-based schools. He, even knowing that there's a UN report that's indicated that it's not fair on the face of it at the moment. But I think it's a question of addressing different interests of maintaining, first of all, a strong public education system, but also ensuring that there is some fairness for faith-based schools while maintaining high standards, accountability, and above all, parental choice. So thank you.
30-second rebuttal for Paul McKeever.
Right. I don't think some fairness is enough. Some fairness implies that you're still going to be paying for a system that your child doesn't use and paying at the same time 100% of the bill at the at the school that your child does attend. That's not some fairness. That's some unfairness. I would like to make sure that that unfairness is gone. Let the parents choose. The children are the children of the parents. Let them decide where their money will go, what school their money will go to. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on. We'll turn this time to a question from Tracy Patterson of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade.
For all the candidates, a reliable and competitively priced supply of electricity is essential to our Board of Trade and Chamber members to maintain and grow their businesses. What are you and your party going to do to ensure that Ontario businesses maintain a competitive advantage in this area?
Okay, we will begin this round with the first response from Julie Gladman of the NDP.
The solution to Ontario's continuing electricity problems has to be conservation. That's just the bottom line. It's the cheapest way to free up some supply for business, and it is the most effective way to do so. Certainly the proposals of the Liberal government, for instance, bandying about the idea of doing a P3 style Darlington expansion will not be a long-term effective solution. We're just going to be, as I say, lurching from crisis to crisis, always in the shadow of brownouts. Thank you.
Christine Elliott of the PC Party.
Well, Mr. McGuinty has committed to eliminating coal-fired plants by 2009. While that's a laudable plan, it's not realistic. And I think that it's eliminating a lot of possibilities for the province of Ontario, because a lot of businesses can't be assured of a safe, secure supply of energy to promote their businesses. And I think we need to deal with that head on. We also need to look at more conservation procedures and more education of the communities to make sure that we conserve what we have and protect our resources.
Thank you. Thank you. Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
I'd like to remind you that under the NDP, hydro rates went up 40%, and under the NDP, Ontario Hydro ended all conservation initiatives. I think we need to conserve. I would remind you that under the Conservative government, they brought no new energy source online. In fact, they were a net importer. And I don't think that this country can survive if we have to think about importing our electricity. We need to find renewable, clean, safe energy sources. And we are doing that with wind power and solar power.
Thank you. Thank you. Nick Boileau of the Green Party.
I would like to say that I have to applaud Premier McGuinty's shutting of the coal plants. What I don't approve of, however, is the fact that there was no thought put into place for long-term consequences. The reality being that at this point we're short enough on power that we're now importing power from the United States. And ironically, they're coming from coal-burning plants. The reality is that there is a huge market out there for green technologies, and that is something that needs to be implemented now so that once those coal plants are shut down, we have something to replace them with, some sustainable energy form.
Thank you. And finally, Paul McKeever.
Excellent question, the most important question in Ontario, in fact, and that's why we're losing so much business in this province. 50,000 jobs or so we lost last year. Industrial. Why? Expensive electricity. What's this province doing under the Liberals? What's it doing under the PCs? Capping rates? That's not what you do. You allow energy generators to make a profit. Guarantee that they will get market rates for their electricity and that the province will not step in with price controls, and they'll be building like fiends here. Secondly, don't try and force gas down our throats. It's 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Meanwhile, we have gasification plants that are cheap, quick to build, and we can make electricity at less than 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Why don't we do it? Because even though there's 800 to 1,000 years worth of coal sitting in Alberta, right in our backyard, the McGuinty Liberals are ashamed, too afraid that they'll look bad on their 2003 campaign promise to stop using coal. They're afraid to admit, they're afraid that people won't understand there's a way of using coal to generate electricity that won't pollute.
Thank you. Okay, we're running dangerously short of time. We're going to go to the audience for another question. Please, if you could, keep your question as brief as possible.
All right, Tom, very quickly, this is Ian from Whitby, and he's a question for Christine Elliott.
Yes, you have said it's time for a fresh start with your leader, John Tory. However, your caucus is full of the same people that served under Mike Harris. How does a simple rebranding exercise with John Tory at the helm make your party any different now than it was during the Harris era?
Well, I think the basic principles of our party remain the same. We're committed to reducing spending, to balancing the budget, to making sure that our vulnerable people are cared for, that our environment is protected, and all of the same things that we always stood for. I don't see that as being any different. That's what we're committed to doing, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you. Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
That's a little frightening considering what they were doing when they were in power. They eliminated support for public transit. They eliminated rent controls. They ended construction of new social housing. They froze minimum wages. They cut $435 million from colleges and universities. Ontario lost 1,000 farmers per year during the last 5 years of Conservative government in power. They slashed $80 million from agriculture. They slashed grants for new childcare spaces. If you're proceeding in the same way, that is hardly a fresh start.
Thank you. Nick Boileau, Green Party.
I think the greater concern in all of this, and the real controversy, is the fact that you're having the wife of the former politician running in this area, running in the same riding. There is a huge conflict of interest there. If you take a look at the problems that might arise, be it biases, money coming in, money not coming in, regardless of which way you put it, there's going to be some kind of issue with that.
All right, thank you. Paul McKeever, Freedom Party.
Boy, I wish John Tory was like Mike Harris, but he's not. John Tory is not a Mike Harris Tory. John Tory is a Bill Davis Tory. He's a left of Liberal Tory. He will not cut your taxes. He wants to be a better Liberal. Well, that's not good enough for me, and that's why I'm sitting here today. I'm here to cut your taxes. And that's what he should have done, and that's why he's no longer relevant. We don't need two Liberal parties in this province. We've already got one. It's bad enough. Freedom Party is going to cut taxes if nobody else will.
Thank you. Julie Gladman, NDP.
There's nothing fresh about the Ontario Conservative Party. It's as the member of the audience said, the same old Tories with a new brand name. If people in the audience would like to try something fresh and truly innovative, I would recommend that they look at the Howard Hampton NDP platform, and that's fresh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christine Elliott, 30 seconds rebuttal time.
Well, I would just like to make a comment with respect to the Green Party's comments. First of all, this is the 21st century. I think that women are entitled, and spouses of any person who's involved, to be elected on their own merit and to be able to be involved in politics no matter what their spouse does or does not do. Secondly, with respect to the comments regarding a conflict of interest, how can there possibly be a conflict when you have two people working in the best interest of the constituents of the riding of Whitby-Ajax who can communicate with each other? How could that possibly be bad for anyone?
All right, thank you. Thank you. Nick Boileau, 30 seconds rebuttal time.
The conflict of interest arises when both people in the same riding, one can apply political pressure to the other in order to get things that they want. On the flip side, however, you may find that by electing someone who is married to the person in the same riding, you may find that there is actually a lack of anything coming back because they're going to want to avoid that.
All right, thank you. You okay? All right, we've got time for one more question. We're going to turn to Deborah Hutchison of First Local.
Okay, I'm going to ask about our farmers. Farmers have been marching on Queen's Park this past week, and they plan to take their protest to Ottawa next week. This is for everyone. What should the province be doing for them to ensure that our farming industry is able to survive the tough times?
All right, and we're going to begin this round of questioning with Christine Elliott.
Well, thanks for the question. I think that's a really important issue. Clearly, we're not doing enough for the farmers to feel that they're under so much pressure that they actually have to go and take their farm equipment to Queen's Park to make their point. I think we need to be open and enter into a dialogue with them to eliminate a lot of the red tape and bureaucratic restrictions that we have on our farmers, allow them to get out there and to make money and to grow their crops and to sell their crops and make a profit. We need to do that. We also need to work in tandem with the federal government to make sure that the lower cost subsidies, we have to have a level playing field for our farmers.
Thank you. Judi Longfield, Liberal Party.
This is not an Ontario-only problem. It is a problem that farmers are facing from coast to coast to coast. And I think we need to sit down, all levels of government, and to, as Christine said, to make certain that there is a level playing field for them. Because, you know, you've seen the buttons and we know it. Farmers feed Canadians. They feed Ontarians. We need them. And we need to come up with a coordinated approach to ensure that we have the food sources we need to feed our families, and grown here in Canada.
Thank you. Nick Boileau.
I think one of the major concerns and one of the major issues is that huge amounts of land that should be used for agriculture. The whole basin in the GTA around Toronto has been declared as some of the best land in the entire world for farming, and yet all we see is development, development, development. I think that's an enormous issue when you're talking about the sustainability of farmers and their ability to produce at the best quality.
Thank you. Paul McKeever, Freedom Party.
Well, as Judi said, it's a shared jurisdiction. It's federal and provincial. There's three things I can think of that right away need to happen. One, get rid of this supply management. If a person wants to sell their beans to the guy across the street or the guy in Alaska, or if he wants to crush them up and make soup, that's his choice. I don't believe a marketing board should be making him pay for a quota, telling him how much he can, how much corn he can grow on his own land, or how many potatoes, or how many beans. It's his land. Respect his property rights. Let him plant what he wants. Secondly, I only get to two, I guess. The second one is get rid of those property taxes. They're backward. They're killing municipal governance. Nobody thinks they're smart. There's better ways to finance government, and farmers don't need the hassle.
Thank you. Julie Gladman from the NDP.
Deborah, in answer to your question, I think what we should be doing to help farmers in Ontario is listening to them and their ideas. They have ideas. And Dalton McGuinty and the Liberal government have not been listening to them. They've got their own risk management plan that's quite reasonable and could be very easily implemented. When Ms. Longfield talks about sitting down to have a dialogue with the farmers, she's not taking into account that her party leader has not done so with the farmers. This is a typical Liberal Band-Aid reactionary decision-making situation here, where the Liberals are funding emergency bailouts for the 2004 crop year, but there's been no mention of a long-term strategy or even any bailout for the 2005 equally disastrous crop year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I just want to check with the truck. Are we ready to go to closing comments, or do we have time for one more question? All right, we're going to go immediately to the 2-minute closing comments. We're going to begin this time with Julie Gladman of the NDP.
Thank you. We've seen during the 2003 election, and we've seen here tonight, that the McGuinty Liberals offer the same promises and a legacy of forgetting them once elected. They'll say anything to buy your vote and not deliver on any of it. The Liberals like to blame everything on the previous Conservative government, but after 2.5 years, that argument's getting a little old. Yes, the Conservatives created a crisis, in fact, a whole series of crises around electricity, healthcare, education. The Liberals were elected specifically to respond to these crises. What are they waiting for? Right now, and we'll see this on Thursday when the government brings down the budget, the Liberals are desperately trying to hide a surplus, wanting to look like saviors before the 2007 election. The Liberals have money in the bank, but their vision is bankrupt. Now more than ever, we need to send a strong message to the McGuinty Liberals to start addressing our community's priorities. Invest in public health care and stop privatization. Take better care of our seniors, the people who built our province, and invest in education and training so our young people can find opportunities. With your support, I will be a strong voice for our community, and together with Howard Hampton and the NDP team, we will make sure that our community's priorities are not forgotten. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. According to the order that we established before the debate, the next speaker will be Christine Elliott of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party.
I would again like to thank our sponsors for this evening's debate and for the audience's participation. The issues raised this evening are of significant importance and must be addressed by whoever the representative is elected on March 30th. I've made my position clear as to what I believe in and the priorities I will fight for on behalf of the residents of Whitby and Ajax. Throughout this debate, the Liberal candidate has spoken of the so-called successes of the McGuinty government in the areas of healthcare and education reinvestments. But to those of us living in Whitby and Ajax, none of what we've witnessed in the last few years can be called a success. When the health tax was imposed, the McGuinty government promised us better health care. By their own admission, one of the most important yardsticks in measuring the quality of health care is wait time lists. While the wait time lists in Whitby and Ajax have increased dramatically, the wait times now have increased to 67% for cancer surgery at Lakeridge Health and an unbelievable 213% for an angioplasty at Rouge Valley Ajax. Another broken promise. So as you leave tonight and when you vote on March 30th, ask yourself this important question. Am I better off today than I was 3 years ago? I do not believe that we can accept the Liberal record of broken promises any longer. If elected as your representative, I'm committed to a new hospital for the northern part of our riding, fair funding for our local hospitals, Lakeridge Health and Rouge Valley Ajax, shorter waiting lists for healthcare services, more schools for our community, more GO trains and buses, safer communities for our children. I ask for your support on March 30th. Please vote for John Tory and Christine Elliott for a fresh approach for Whitby and Ajax. Don't McGuinty needs to hear that message.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And now we'll go to the Green Party candidate, Nick Boileau.
Promises in opposition always sound wonderful, but in essence, they never work. On top of all this, these politicians play politics of the moment. They say what needs to be said so that they can get elected. On top of that, these solutions that they come up with are all very immediate. They're Band-Aid solutions. As the Green Party, we need to operate like a hockey team. We need to build from within, through the draft, acquire those pieces that are necessary and slowly develop them so that there is now a harmony between the defense, the forwards, the goaltenders, and so on. How do you do that? Well, you certainly don't do that by putting all your eggs in one basket, say, trying to get more doctors to your hospital. What you need to do is you need to support those organizations such as the chiropractics, such as education, green technologies, and you need to incorporate all of those things so that they are balanced, one off of the other. You improve the environment, you improve healthcare, you improve education, you improve the environment. They're all intermixed. And that is what the message is. So you're not going to hear any promises from me tonight about what needs to be done. What you will hear, however, is that my ears are open. I've talked to the mayors, I've talked to city councillors, I've talked to people in the streets. So I know what the issues are. Now it's time to come up with a solution. Now it's time to start putting things in place once you have all of the facts in front of you.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll turn to Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party.
Thank you. I want to thank Rogers, the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, the Ajax Board of Trade, and all of you who have come out tonight. This is my community. It's your community. For the last 15 years, I have been working hard to serve the members of this community. I think public service is an honor, and I've been greatly privileged to represent you. I'm asking for the right and the privilege to continue to represent you in the way in which I have for the last 15 years, to listen to your concerns, to fight for the things that are important to you, that are important to my family as well as yours, to fight to improve healthcare in this area, to keep our communities and neighborhoods safe, to strengthen education and to invest in our children, and to enhance public transportation. I want this to continue to be a wonderful place to raise a family. I am dedicated to this community. My only purpose in running is to try and make things better for my neighbors and for those of you that I've had the privilege of representing. I have experience. I have delivered results for this community. I'm asking for your support on March the 30th. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party.
In this by-election, you have a unique opportunity. No matter who you pick, it's not going to change who's the government. Mr. McGuinty is still going to be your premier. There's no risk here. And this job only lasts 18 months, and we're doing this all over again anyway. So look, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Check out my website. You can go to www.paulmckeever.ca. You'll see everything I stand for. If you haven't already figured it out by now, there's a big difference. You've probably figured it out. If you want lower taxes, there's only one candidate here who's promising that. The only one person who's going to stand on the floor and hold Mr. McGuinty's feet to the fire for lower taxes, for choice in health insurance. You want lower taxes and a better life, I'm the guy, Paul McKeever. All right? If you want, instead, someone who's going to do whatever the leader says, if you want to vote for John Tory, I didn't know he was on the ballot, but if you want to vote for John Tory, you go right ahead. In fact, do so. That'll be a spoiled ballot. But vote for Paul McKeever, give me 18 months, and I want to prove to you I can be the best MPP that your riding has ever had. Give me a chance. Paul McKeever, March 30th, Freedom Party.
Okay, thank you. All right, and that's just about all the time we have. It's all over but the thank yous, and I'd like to extend those now. First of all, to our panelists. Richard Goddard is the president of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to Richard. Thanks to Tracy Patterson. She's the president of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade. Thanks, of course, to Deborah Hutchison of Rogers Television First Local News. And thanks to Chris Terrio. He's been our audience wrangler out there, and I know some people are probably very disappointed that they didn't get a chance to get their questions across tonight, and I'm sorry that we've timed out. I'd also like to wish luck and special thanks to the candidates of Whitby-Ajax. First of all, from the Green Party, Nick Boileau. Let's hear it for all of the candidates tonight. Everybody's done an excellent job. Nick Boileau of the Green Party of Canada. Paul McKeever of the Freedom Party of Canada. Julie Gladman of the NDP. Good luck as well to Christine Elliott of the Ontario PC Party. And last but certainly not least, good luck and thanks to Judi Longfield of the Liberal Party of Ontario. All right, if you've tuned in late to the debate and you didn't see the beginning, keep your eye on Rogers Television. This debate is going to air for the people in the audience tonight at 7 p.m. tomorrow on Channel 10. That'll be Wednesday. It'll also be re-airing for those of you in television land that missed part of it on Sunday, March 26th. That's going to be at 7 p.m. It'll also be on again Saturday, March 25th, if that's more convenient for you, so you can watch the entire debate and find out the things that you've missed. I want to ask everybody, both at home and here tonight, to join us live on election night. That's Thursday, the 30th of March. Rogers Television will have live coverage of the by-election, and we will announce the winners that night, the only winner really that matters, the one that the voters have selected. For now, thanks to all of you for coming tonight. Thanks to all of you for watching tonight, and good luck once again to our candidates on the 30th.